It's Garage Quest, and today we're talking about everyone's favorite part of D&D, carousing?
And two.
Welcome to Garage Quest, a garage show about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm your host, May McDonough, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Rusty. Looking snazzy.
I'm carousing tonight.
That's right, because today we're talking about, if it's not your favorite part of D&D, it's definitely your favorite part of life, or you ain't living.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was improvised. How'd you like that?
That was good.
It's carousing. So, the Dungeon Master's Guide designates a few pages to various downtime activities. And my favorite of which is carousing. So, what exactly is carousing?
So carousing is, the proverbial night out on the town,
Yeah.
A lot of times we as RPGers can get caught in the grind, of campaigning, and role playing is not, or should not be, well, it doesn't have to be, and I think it's more fun if you don't make it all about hack and slash.
I agree.
Yeah, and
there's a basic form to an adventure. Usually you've got, because it works similarly to a film or a book, you've got that prologue moment, and then you're maybe going to do some discovery, a puzzle, and it's all going to lead to some epic battle because that's how climax works. But that can become mundane.
Yeah, and
right?
And not very realistic. I mean, after all, real life has things that are just one-offs and disconnected.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of long-running works of fiction, like TV shows and serials, etc., will often have the one-off just for fun episode, where they don't follow the typical format.
The monster of the week. Oh, no, you're talking about a lock-in.
Yeah, where it becomes about the crush that Mulder and Scully have on each other, for example. I know you were going for the X-Files reference there.
Yeah.
But no, it's just a way to just focus on the characters. And carousing is one of those rare instances where you put the agency entirely in the player's hands. Mm-hmm. And the DM is the one having to improvise in response to what they have in mind for what their characters would do as a night on the town.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. Cool addition to any narrative.
I do too. So, in summary, the basic answer would be that carousing is time that your players spend exploring their vices, and I think the book says engaging in hedonistic activities.
Definitely. So the only real requisite that the DMG gives is that it costs 4 gold pieces to participate in carousing.
That's right.
You spend one night living the healthy or the wealthy.
Yeah, that's right. I think the DMG specifies that for that evening when you're carousing, you spend money like a wealthy man would.
Yeah.
And, but beyond that, there's really not a lot of tight parameters. And like you said, it definitely provides a platform for the characters to take charge and have a lot more freedom in exploring who they are as characters, because this is what they do with their downtime, not what they do when they're put in a really strict, tight parametered scenario. So I think that really encourages active role playing, where you're gonna really see your players interact with each other as their characters and make choices that it kind of switches roles between the DM and the players, because at that point it encourages really active role playing where players dive into their characters in a way that they can't maybe normally express through the really tight parameters of a normal adventure, and it allows them to have to dive into who their characters are a little more, because they're making choices of what they do with their free time.
Absolutely. Like some of your character backgrounds, for example. This might be where those really come into play. Like the folk hero, for example. The folk hero thing doesn't really have a lot of flavor benefit in combat and NPC interaction encounters so much, because the NPCs have such a strong motivation that's connected to a plot line or a narrative that it's hard to just, you know, use some kind of ethereal notion of regional reputation or infamy, you know. But when you're carousing and just having fun in the town, that's where the folk hero status could really come into play. Absolutely. Imagine paparazzi-ish kind of attention, you know.
Yeah, stalkers.
Even.
Or just, hey, you know, drinks are on us. Everybody wants to give you
exactly. There's all kinds of cool little things that you can build into that. Yeah. And
well, okay, my character Elementos loved carousing because a huge part of the background story of Elementos is that Elementos is a con artist. She, like everyone in D&D, doesn't have any parents, right? That's a pretty
very common thing.
But she was raised by a village, but not treated as one of their own in any way. She was kind of like the janitor of this village, and they gave her a place to sleep. And so she learned to con people to get away, you know, from the village and make her way through the world. And carousing is a perfect opportunity for her to put that into gameplay a little bit. So there have been a lot of opportunities where we, as our adventuring group, went out, got plastered, and then Elementos talked the group or some of the group into putting on a scam with them, or with her. One of the most memorable ones I can recall is doing a really classic old scam, which is they picked a mark and they pulled the old, I just found this engagement ring and it's really valuable. Oh, I'm sorry. I found this engagement ring, but I guess I'm just going to keep it. It was really cool. And then someone else comes by later, frazzled, looking for an engagement ring from their boss, who's a very, very wealthy nobleman. And
you got it backwards. Anything. The one person comes first and says, "I've lost this ring," but it's not there, and they look around a little bit for it. And then the other person. Well,
you can do it either way. The way we did it is the guy reveals that he found this ring and then kind of goes out shopping. And then the guy comes looking for it and says, well, if you see it, you know, let me know, and walks away. And now your mark remembers, I have seen it. I'm going to go get it from that guy. But that guy doesn't know it's valuable. So I'm going to pay him less than it's worth, get it from him, and then go try and sell it to the man who's looking for it. And we'll pay a lot for it. But of course, it's not valuable. So it's an easy way to make some money off of him. And
I like the other one maybe a little bit better.
Okay, I remember two. So are you referring to the time we auctioned off paintings that weren't actually valuable?
I think the other one.
Okay. I knew this is where you were going. This one didn't involve the whole group, really. It involved me and one other person. But we got plastered just enough that we didn't black out, and we found a man who had blacked out and passed out. And I laid down next to him close to morning. When he woke up, I pretended that I was his prostitute, and he owed me money, and my pimp came looking, who is, of course, played by Shump or somebody at the time.
Which is a great way to scrounge up capital. You know.
Yeah, and all of these are, Googleable scams, to be honest. They're classic scams. and not necessarily mentioned in the DMG as an aspect of carousing, but gambling is mentioned, drinking is mentioned, vices are mentioned, and Elementos' vice is absolutely the con. And these things took up entire sessions, and they're certainly some of the most memorable for me.
Yeah.
Although that being egocentric, it's you remember it, our other players remember it, and we had a really great time, despite there being much of any DMing going on.
And that's the thing. It's like once your group builds up a certain amount of momentum with the role playing, and people really get into that yes and mentality. It provides an opportunity, because it can get a little bit overwhelming to be a DM every week or every 2 weeks or however often you guys play.
Absolutely.
And to always have these intricately planned and thought out encounters, it's just not always feasible. And honestly, if you did it every week, you might burn out.
And it's exhausting to the players too. I've noticed that the times that we as a group, we meet every week, and have for a few years. We as a group, when we play, when we start to seem like the inventors, we're just not participating as much, or we're not remembering last week, those sort of things. I think it's usually because we've had one campaign after the other, all of which were the normal, heroic, 3-part campaign.
Yeah, so it's not just about your player characters blowing off steam. It's your players' chance to kind of just, okay, this is just, we're just having fun and riffing off each other. This is just for goofs.
Yeah, and I think that's another good DM tip. Oh, is this going to become a thing?
Maybe.
I did not intend for this to become a thing, but we'll do #DM tip again. That your players need breaks. If ever you find that your players just don't seem as into your campaign as you wanted them to be, it may not be a reflection on your campaign or your DMing skills at all. It might just be that it's kind of become monotonous to do this on a regular basis. Maybe they need some sort of outside of the box experience, like downtime activities provide. That
is actually a really good point, is that like none of this you should be taking too personally or seriously, and if you do notice for whatever reason the experience is starting to lull, spice it up, refer to the DMG, look at these random encounter tables, look at the downtime activities, maybe your players are wealthy enough after collecting all these treasures from being, murder hobos for 10 levels that you have the ability to build a keep or a stronghold or something,
Yep.
There are all kinds of these cool ways you can flavor up your game.
Definitely look at downtime activities, because like you're saying, there are plenty more than just carousing. And our group has done all of them, I think. We run a business right now, which we have to maintain. We have a keep, which we have to maintain. We've certainly gone carousing many times. In fact, Ryan, my brother, DM'd last week, and he had us, the villages around our keep needed some justice from us. So they asked us to make some rulings on small disagreements throughout their villages.
Yeah, totally disconnected from any plot, really, but just kind of like almost these like little mundane dramas that play out. And just kind of having fun with the characters,
Yeah, and, you can throw little tiffs and battles in there, even into carousing. You can have a bar brawl if you need, or go rob a guy at rapier point, or just whatever you need to do.
Lover's point,
to
rapier
enjoy
point.
it.
Are we going to have a #MeToo in every episode as well?
No, why did you go there? Good God. So that said, there are consequences to carousing, right?
Yeah.
There are good consequences and bad consequences, the most obvious of which would be the carousing table.
Yeah. So no matter what level of role playing or player agency that you're infusing into this carousing encounter, whether you're taking just part of a session or the entire session, it could be fun to end it with the DMG's carousing table to work out what the long-term consequences of this,
Yeah, or immediate even.
Yeah.
Some of the carousing table results, I think, are like, you wake up and you blacked out last night and now you owe some guy some money and you don't recall why.
Yeah,
or you pissed someone off.
there's certainly an element of the lottery to the table because it costs 4 gold pieces to play for the night.
Yeah.
And there's a chance that you lose money, but there's also a chance that you gain
make
money.
That's right. I like that. Yeah. So there is a carousing table provided in the DMG, and you don't have to use it. We've certainly gone carousing and not used the carousing table.
I like to spice up.
Nice.
I like to spice up the tables. They're a good starting point. But honestly, your party better than the writers of the book, as great as the writers are.
One of the most popular threads I see pop up time and time again on like Red D&D it are people expanding on the carousing table. And there are some insanely outside the box consequences that they throw in there.
Having children.
Yeah. There are some really strange carousing tables out there, so I highly recommend anyone check that out.
Social disease.
Social disease.
Very old-fashioned.
That's a very polite way of saying that. But there are other consequences outside of just the carousing table.
And the consequences actually can reinforce the story and the narrative, too.
Well, that's what I'm getting to exactly, is that some consequences of those consequences can be that you are now provoking an entirely new campaign. Maybe you have a new nemesis. Maybe you have to go find a way to find an item that you borrowed and then lost while you were carousing. 1,000 possibilities. A story can begin the morning after.
Yeah. Speaking of the morning after, if you roll 31 to 40, you get caught up in a whirlwind romance.
Oh, do you?
Do you remember the time that
How
Roscoe
whirlwind?
and Shump ended up at the end of the night with
the
twin sisters, girlfriends?
Yeah.
That was a great bonding moment for Roscoe and Shump, a halfling and a half-orc. And that really was the beginning of our characters starting to form this kind of like little mini alliance within the party, that they were always out to have fun and like one-up each other in combat. It was really cool.
Yeah. There were a lot of testosterone-fueled high fives in that
Basil.
quest.
Sisters.
Oh, man. I don't care to remember that one. You high-fiving my brother constantly about the twins they were having. Anyhow,
It got kind of meta.
it got a little weird. So yeah, do you have anything else to say about carousing? I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot.
No, definitely read the downtime activities section if you haven't yet.
Yeah, and go carousing. Try, if you haven't done carousing in your campaigns, if you have a lot of like power gamers that just want to get in there and do some serious damage, throw them a curveball. Like,
Yeah.
let them feel things out for once, you
Yeah.
know. Especially if you don't have a group that switches off on DMing like we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
A good way to put the power into the other people's hands.
yeah,
for a
and
bit.
see what they do with it a little
Yeah.
bit. So yeah, I highly recommend carousing. Do you?
Personally, yes.
In life.
Yeah,
And
life
in D&D.
and in D&D.
So all right, that's been our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm May. This is Rusty, and this has been Garage Quest.
See you in the taverns.
Tell us what you would do while you're carousing in D&D or otherwise. I like a good story in the comments below, and please subscribe.